All right. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the NAHREP 10. So basically, the NAHREP 10 are 10 principles that you live by. And the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals has come up with these amazing principles that I learned years ago and I love living by. So the first one, have a mature understanding of wealth and prosperity, because the one with the most toys usually loses. So this principle is super important because everybody defines wealth in a different way. Wealth, prosperity, success. So I think it's important to remind yourself, what does wealth mean to you? Growing up in inner city LA, if I saw nice cars, if I saw the big house, obviously to me, they were successful, they were wealthy, they were well off. Come to find out as years went by, I realized that that's not always the case. A lot of people were struggling to pay their nice BMW, or a lot of people were struggling to pay their house payment. So I don't think everybody defines wealth differently. So I think you have to really look into what that means for you, right? I've also met people that are super, super wealthy and don't show it with what they wear, don't show it with what they drive. So I think it's important to understand, have a mature understanding about wealth and prosperity. Principle number 2 of the NAHREP 10 is be in the top 10% of your profession, because being good is not good enough. And everybody interprets this a little different, but I'll tell you what it means to me and how I've defined it in my life. You really have to show up and be the best you can. If you're a real estate agent, you got to be the best. If you're a mortgage broker, you got to be the best. If you just do the best you can, learn every day. I tell my team, listen, I think there's a school of thought, if you spend 15, 20 minutes in your craft every day, you will become an expert, right? For a set amount of time. I'm a big believer in that. I think that in order to be good at what you do, you have to invest the time in learning, right? You have to invest the time, be it through books, be it through classes, be it through, nowadays you have everything online, you can learn, but you have to perfect your craft. So be top 10% of whatever you're doing. Be top 10% in your profession and show up the best you can every day. Principle number 3 of the NAHREP 10 is live below your means and be ready for the next recession, because economic downturns are parts of the economic cycles. So I remember back before the market crashed, and I'm trying to think, it was 2008, 2006. I wish I would have really, really understood this principle, because I really didn't get it, right? Back then, before the market crashed, everything was great. I was starting my business. I was doing really well, closing deals, got the house that I wanted, got the car that I wanted, and I wanted more. But I didn't really save. I didn't really prepare, and I didn't live below my means. I just didn't. Even though my mentors told me I should really save for a rainy day. I really should prepare for an economic downturn. I didn't. And when the market crashed, I was not prepared financially. I was not prepared. And I remember the feeling of not being able to buy a cup of coffee. Like, I got to that point in my life years ago where I couldn't even buy a cup of coffee because I didn't prepare. So I would say this principle, if you learn how to live by this, like live below your means, you're going to have a better overall just life, and you're not going to be as stressed out, and you're going to learn about just wealth in general and build wealth as well. Principle number 4 of the NAHREP 10 is very simple. It's minimize debt, because it's the biggest enemy to wealth. Oh my goodness, how many of us have been in a situation where the credit card debt just keeps getting worse, right? So I would say this principle is so important, especially if you're in a journey of building wealth, or you had a major crisis, economic crisis in your family, and you just have to minimize your debt and get rid of it as fast as you can. In order to build wealth, you have to get rid of that debt, right? So it's super important that you understand and minimize debt, learn about it, get with a wealth advisor or somebody that could help you if you need to navigate through that, or get with someone to help you navigate through that. But you have to minimize debt in order to build your wealth. It's just part of the process. Principle number 5 of the NAHREP 10 is also super important. It really teaches us that we should be investing at least 20% of your income into real estate or stocks. And, it's been seen that it's the safest way to build wealth over time, So it's super important to always put aside at least 20% of your income to invest in real estate or stocks. And for me, I always say this because it's 90% of millionaires own real estate, right? It's super important that you maybe consider that as an option, especially for a long term. Stocks is also a good option. If you're not really sure on how to invest in stocks, I would also talk to maybe a wealth advisor or somebody that understand stocks. For me, I kind of lean onto what I'm comfortable investing in, but I've learned that I need to diversify. You need to diversify your wealth. So I lean into experts, people that know, people that have done it, friends, experts again, that can guide me through that process because I don't know it all. I feel comfortable in real estate. Obviously, I sell real estate. I love teaching people about homeownership, but I also should diversify. So I've encouraged myself in the last couple of years to look into angel investing for diversification. So it's super important that you're constantly growing in that space and you invest your income. Principle number 6. Oh goodness, numbers. How many of us hate numbers? Some of you guys love it and some of us hate it. I was a big, I don't like numbers, but you have to know your net worth. Principle number 6 says you have to know your net worth, including the value of your businesses, because you really can't improve what you can't measure. So I would say, this was hard for me. There's times where people had asked me, Eva, how much is this worth? How much debt do you have? And it's literally not difficult to do. You just have to sit down and have the courage to look at your assets, look at your liabilities, and know your net worth. What am I worth, right? What are my liabilities? What are my assets? What is everything worth? What is my net worth? It's important. Why? Because if you want to grow, if you want to get better, you have to know where you stand. Super important. If you need somebody to advise you with that, there's people that can help you with that. I know I've relied heavily on experts, advisors to help me through that, navigate that process. I remember the first time somebody says, Eva, what's your net worth? I'm like, I don't know. So it's important to kind of know where you stand on that, and ask an expert and sit down and do the work. Super important. NAHREP principle number 7. Oh goodness, I have really improved on this one, but it's being politically savvy. You have to be politically savvy because public policy matters. How many times have you come across something being decided for you in your city, or there's something within your homeowners association? And I'm just talking on a local level, but what about a city level? I'm just talking homeowners association, but what about a local level? What about what's going on? You have to understand what's going on. Everybody's all about, our elections and all that, but you also have to know what's going on locally with your people. And so be politically savvy, know what's going on. You don't have to watch Fox News, CNN all the time to know what's going on, but you do have to be in tune with what's going on around you. What decisions are being made on your behalf? Is that something that you approve of? If that's something that you don't approve of, what can you do, right? So these are all things that are super important. Be politically savvy. Be politically savvy. Just be aware. The NAHREP principle number 8 is actually one of my favorite ones. It's be physically fit because it's super important, because wealth without health is really meaningless. I am super grateful. I always think, okay, I'm healthy. I'm in a good space right now. I can take the walk. I can take the stairs. I can do all these things. You have to be physically fit. And I've also incorporated, even though the NAHREP 10 is physically fit, to me, it's always also mentally, mentally well, like me making sure I'm taking care of myself in a physical way, but also mentally. What am I doing? What am I doing to be mindful? What am I doing for self-care? If you're physically active, also, what are you eating? What are you consuming? What are you just being physically fit? Because let me tell you, you can have wealth, but if you don't have that health, then it is really truly meaningless. It's not where you want to be. Principle number 9, be generous with those that are less fortunate, because philanthropy feeds your spirit and gives more purpose to your work. I would say this is also one of my favorite principles. I know that a lot of people poured into me when I needed it the most. And still, there's people that still pour into my heart, into my soul. And I would say, be generous, because you never know if you're ever going to need help. So be fortunate, be generous, be a giver, be a giver. Sometimes it doesn't have to be financial. You can give you can give time, and that's being generous. Be generous with your time, be generous with your talent, because you know what? It's pretty amazing. And it does give more purpose to your work other than just financial. So yeah, that's a great principle to live by. Principle number 10 of the NAHREP 10 is be active in the lives of your family and children, because familia is a central part of who we are, and nothing will motivate you more. Oh goodness, this is so true. Family is so important. I have to say I've worked hard on this one, because once again, you build your business, you're always busy, and you forget about the people who love you the most, that support you the most, your family and your kids. So it's something that you have to work for. You have to remember to be active in their lives, especially when they're young, and a lot of us that started our businesses when we were younger, we obviously, struggled with this. How much time we give to our family, how much time do we give to the business? It's always a back and forth. But just be mindful. Be mindful that you're going to get to a place, we're all going to get to a place in our lives, and it's just based on my experience and based on what I've seen, your relationships are going to be the key, most important things for you and your happiness, not just what happens to you in your business. So keep that in mind and make sure you're active in the lives of your family and children.